Coming to you from historic Crocker Field in downtown Fitchburg, it is once again time for Varsity Girls Soccer here on FATV. I'm John Gugerty, joined as always by Daniel Bolek. And Dan, today the Red Raiders take on the Warriors of Narragansett.
Indeed they do, John. This is going to be an interesting contest between these two sides, both of them coming off of losses to Quabbin. We got to see the Red Raiders take on Quabbin in our last girls soccer game. That's the most recent game the Red Raiders have played due to rain throwing a wrench in the schedule earlier this week. But we saw the Red Raiders lose that game by a score of 5-2.
Quabbin also defeated Narragansett by putting 5 goals in the net. They shut out the Warriors, a 5-0 final. And for Narragansett, that was just 24 hours ago. Not much rest at all for the Warriors. You got to think that'll give the Red Raiders the advantage, Dan.
A little bit. The Red Raiders have had about a week to rest up. I mean, they were supposed to play on Tuesday, but because of the rain, that game got pushed to Friday against Gardner. So they'll be playing that one after this one. But for now, the Red Raiders, with about a week of rest, heading to come into this game facing a Warriors team that's a bit on tilt, having lost that game 5-0 after winning their opening game against Oakmont 2-1, a team that Fitchburg ultimately could only tie.
So Narragansett comes in with the record of 1-1-0. Fitchburg toting an 0-1-1 mark. Red Raiders still looking for their first win of the season, in this very unique 2020 high school sports atmosphere. Unique is a good word for it, right, Dan?
Yeah, we'll say unique is probably a good way to sum it up. And normally you have such a diverse schedule that you're playing so many different teams across the region, and this year it's just 4 other opponents, all that the Red Raiders are going to be seeing in boys and girls soccer this season.
Yeah, you see a lot of the same names up and down the schedule. This is the first of 3 meetings between the Warriors and the Red Raiders. You see the Warriors there with the white jerseys and blue numbers. Thankfully, they didn't copy Quabbin's gold on white. And Fitchburg going with the black numbers, black and white, and red jerseys for the Red Raiders. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a little bit more than we were last time against Quabbin in terms of who is actually carrying the ball. This will be Maddie Ambrogi kicking things off for the Warriors, and kicking off our play-by-play coverage is Mr. Dan Bolek.
Thank you very much, John. 4 20-minute quarters in MIAA girls soccer this season. After a bit of discussion, we've decided to have the unofficial clock on your screen count up like it does in professional soccer matches, since the time is being kept on the field. The scoreboard is disabled at Crocker Field. From what I got to see when I got to do the game in person yesterday.
And again, we'll be giving you unofficial times as best we can, but do keep in mind that the official time is kept on the field. So if we screw up, we're sorry, but we're doing the best we can, which is really all you can say about so very many things this season.
Indeed, and so already in the first minute of the contest, Narragansett has earned the first corner of the day, and it'll be Ashley Kilberry who'll take this one. Kilberry on a give and go, sends it across, trying to settle in the area. Looking for it was Haley Allen, but Fitchburg will kick it out of danger, try to bring it upfield. This is Jordan Butler. Too much contact there, and that'll end the run.
Butler basically just ran through the Warrior defender who was positioned in front of her. That probably would have been a foul, even without the increased emphasis that the MIAA is placing on physical contact, trying to legislate as much of that out of the game as they can. Actually, I apologize. It looks like they called that foul on the Warriors. It'll be a free kick for Fitchburg.
Yeah, I also thought on the first blush that foul was going to be against the Red Raiders as well, but they did in fact call the foul against Narragansett, interestingly enough. So Gansett with the ball, far side of the field. Natalie Medlin with that stretch pass a bit too strong, and out of bounds it'll go. It'll be a kick in. And Gansett will have the kick in. Running that down, Zoe Meyer. She scored on a penalty last week against Quabbin. One of just 2 goals the Red Raiders have put in this season. That ball makes its way out through the end line.
I think it's generous to say the Raiders have put in 2 goals. As I recall, one of those goals against Quabbin was basically an own goal, maybe in everything but name.
More or less. I mean, we ultimately didn't get an official recap for that game, so I am not positive if they ended up scoring that as an own goal or if they scored that to Jordan Butler as we believed. But at the end of the day, I don't really think anyone on Quabbin actually touched it from what I remember, so I'm still giving it to Butler.
Fair enough.
So approaching the end of the 3rd minute of action at historic Crocker Field. Got the kick in there. On the goal kick, I should say, as Alexis Silverberg with the pass up the near side, nudged along to midfield. Narragansett trying to get in the way of that as Kilbury moves it around up the right side. Kilbury on the give and go, pushes it towards goal. McCouncil able to track that one and pick that one up.
Ashley Kilbury had a really good scoring opportunity, but Zoe Meyer was able to get in front of her, just slow her momentum down enough that she wasn't able to follow up as fluidly as she would have liked. But now Maddie Ambrogi's got a chance here, taking it up the far side.
All right, set up another give and go turnaround in the area, trying to find a spot to shoot, but 3 Red Raiders in the way. Ultimately, be knocked out of bounds off the Red Raiders' feet. And it'll be a kick in for Narragansett.
Meyer just, booting it out of bounds, giving everybody a chance to catch their breath and reset. One thing you want to do on the defensive side, of course, is control the pace of the ball and, if you can, steal it away.
As Ariana Lopez brings it up the far side for the Red Raiders. To midfield is as far as it'll go. Narragansett putting an end to that. Booting it downfield. Looking for that stretch pass, but far too strong. It'll be an easy pickup for Tennille Council.
Council was charged with and did concede 5 goals in her last game, Dan, but I really think she had a very impressive performance, particularly in the first half. Quabbin controlled almost the entire pace of play there. Could have had even more goals than they put in, but Council acquitted herself very well until finally just couldn't keep it up for the full 80 minutes.
I will say in soccer, facing 16 shots in a contest, 16 shots on keeper, and I think Council did quite well, and I wasn't thinking that any of the 5 goals she gave up were goals that she would like to have back. I think that was just Quabbin overpowering Fitchburg in that regard, and as you said, she did well to keep them off the board as best as she could. It could very easily have been 8 or 9 with a lesser keeper.
Ashley Kilbury taking the kick in there for Narragansett. You're going to hear a lot of that name Kilbury. There are 2 of them, Emily and Ashley. Ashley, a sophomore, Emily, an 8th grader, actually. But both of them on the varsity roster, and we've already seen both of them involved in the play.
Narragansett actually has a smaller roster than Fitchburg does. The Red Raiders boast a roster of 16 varsity players. Narragansett has just 15. And they've had such a challenge with the numbers this year, they've actually had to co-op with another school, that being Murdoch.
And last year in the Midwatch E, Narragansett and Murdoch were the 2 lowest ranked teams, finishing with a combined record of 3-17 in the conference, 8-25-2 overall.
Definitely was a challenge for the Blue Devils of Murdoch last season. Only a single win to their credit, could only score 5 goals across the season. So some of these players actually playing for the school up in Winchendon, others, most of them playing for the one in Templeton.
But as far as we know, and as far as we're going with, the team is, at least for this season, just going to be known as the Narragansett Regional High School Warriors. There's no hybrid there. It's not a situation similar to Fitchburg Monty Tech on the hockey side, where we've run into that a few times.
Put it this way, if they're going by the Narragansett Murdoch branding, they haven't told us. And now Narragansett, with their first good scoring opportunity, set up for Abby Belil, who got the shot off, but Tennille Council able to knock that one down for the save. Definitely the best opportunity we've seen out of Narragansett thus far. They have the first 2 shots of the game as we're into the 8th minute of action.
I'm a little surprised, Dan, that we haven't seen Fitchburg playing more aggressively and trying to really control the pace of the game. We mentioned Narragansett just played a game yesterday. Their players, either they're resting some people, or the players who played yesterday are just playing their second game in another day. It's got to be tiring. It'll be interesting to see how they hold up as this one goes on.
And considering their small roster of 15 players, there's not a whole lot of players that you have access to on the bench necessarily. And you can see a lot of empty chairs really on that left side. Narragansett trying to set up on the left side, a bit of contact to the ground. And ultimately a goal kick awarded. Contact wasn't enough for an infraction. Happened outside the area. And ultimately they'll just award the goal kick. So played along, but Narragansett going to recover it there from Emily Kilberry. Try to move back into the area again. And Alexis Silverberg boxing out there, giving Tennille Council time to pick that one up.
Good defensive play by Silverberg. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just put yourself between the attacking player and the ball. Let the goalkeeper scoop it up.
Julie Davis, one of 3 captains on this Warrior roster, with the kick in. Jordan Butler trying to move that up. She was the leading returning goal scorer for the Red Raiders, had 5 goals last season. That one goes off the foot of Ashley Kilberry, and you can hear the officials say, "Number 7, it hit your foot." So Michelle
Number
Tomei's
7 did not agree with that assessment.
Ashley Kilberry not happy with that. And so Michelle Tomei is going to have the kick in here now that we are ready for play. Trying to pass it through the back lines, but Ashley Kilberry not happy with, or not satisfied with that idea. And ooh, that got a bit dicey there as Council's letting the ball come to her, but Ambrogi charging in there. She had every right to that ball as well, so Council had to really rush in to pick that up.
Saw after Council picked it up, there was a little bit of incidental contact between her and Maddie Ambrogi, and Ambrogi just gave her a little wave, like, nothing meant by it, no harm, no foul. You okay? You okay? Okay, we're good. Let's go.
Now, just past the halfway mark here in the first half. No score between these two sides. Both teams having a little bit of trouble setting the offense up, especially for Fitchburg. They have not been able to get it deep into Gansett territory. We have yet to see Georgia Brewer on our screen.
She might not exist. There's no proof that Georgia Brewer exists.
I mean, I couldn't even tell you what color jersey she's wearing right now. That's how little we've seen of her.
Do they make beer in Atlanta? I don't know. I haven't seen any Georgia Brewers.
Gansett's done very well to control the pace of play. And now another stretch pass into the Fitchburg end. And that one pinballs into touch. It'll be a kick in for the Warriors. 2 referees working this game, as opposed to 1 ref and 2 assistants, as you would see in professional soccer games. As it's sent across, Gansett having trouble settling it. And Tomei trying to carry it out. She will do just that. Jordan Butler able to make a play on, knocking it downfield to the area. On the right side.
There. I saw her. She's real.
She's wearing light blue today. Now we all know that she does in fact exist.
But it was just for a moment as Narragansett right back on the attack. This one fizzles out, but Maddie Ambrogi had a really good run there.
Ambrogi, a dangerous goal scorer. She had 11 goals last year for this Warrior side. Her and Ashley Kilberry had double-digit goals last season for the Warriors. So the cross again as Meyer tries to clear it out of the zone, out of the area, and down and out of bounds near the Fitchburg bench.
We've seen a couple of corners already, Dan, for the Warriors, and they've taken all of them short with the Kilberry sisters. Given that the MIAA has basically eliminated heading the ball, like you cannot head the ball at all this season, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of those short corners. There's really no value to be had in the long in-swinging corners that you might see at higher levels of play, just because there's no possibility of someone going up and heading it in.
And we've seen a few times when a player tries to get across, whether it be on a corner or something like a pseudo corner necessarily, and you see a player trying to make a move as if they're going to try to head the ball, then the last second they realize, oh wait, that's not a thing I'm allowed to do.
Yep, nope, can't do that.
And so they end up just contorting their body in a weird way and making no contact with the ball, and the effort goes to waste. But just one of those trying to unlearn the body language that's been accumulated over the years.
And that has to be very challenging, especially for the more experienced players, the juniors and seniors who have been playing a certain way at this level for so long. Obviously, it's better to play like this than to not play, certainly from the player's perspective. But there's still a lot of muscle memory and a lot of instinct that you need to unlearn. Like right there, that ball going high up in the air, ordinarily you would have seen 3 or 4 players take to the sky, try to head it to their advantage, but everybody knew can't do that. They're going to stop play.
COVID-19 rules, you can't do that.
As you see there, Jordan Butler earns the foul there on Jenny Brandenberry. And the free kick taken. Butler will have it now. Trying to push it forward, but sent back by the Gansett back line.
Dan, I think we've called more Gansett players' names already in the first 15 minutes of action than we called Quabbin players all last week. There's a lesson out there, uniform designers. Don't do gold on white.
It is terrible for television, no matter what you may think. I believe last week, of all the players on Quabbin's roster, I think only 4 or 5 of them got their names said on our broadcast, because those were the only ones we were able to actually recognize on the field.
They're the ones who happened to be in shadow.
They were the lucky ones, but my goodness, that was just a bit annoying, to say the least. So about 3/4 of the way through the first quarter of play. 15 minutes elapsed out of 80 regulation. Still no score. Shots remain 2-0 in favor of Narragansett.
And really, Dan, this feels like just a slower version of the first couple of quarters of the game against Quabbin. Fitchburg consistently unable to produce any kind of offensive pressure. A lot of the play has been in their end. Gansett just hasn't been able to create the opportunities that Quabbin created. But, it's early, and we saw in that Quabbin game, eventually the Fitchburg defense broke down. Quabbin got more and more opportunities, and they ultimately put 5 shots in the net. If Fitchburg's defense, similarly to last week, gets tired and breaks down, Gansett's a team that can score. There's nothing stopping them from putting 2 or 3 in as well.
And Narragansett did score 71 goals last season as well, which was actually second in Midwaukee. It was their defense that betrayed them a little bit. 52 goals conceded last year. The only team that did worse was Murdoch, who they are playing with now, who conceded 92. Boy, Murdoch just had a really challenging season last year. I don't like to dump on them, but
it was difficult for Murdoch. There's no two ways about that. And really, Dan, that level of difficulty, I was looking at the goals for and goals against, and I was looking at Narragansett, 71 goals for, 52 against. They probably got a little bit unlucky, but I think more likely they just kind of beat up on Murdoch and contributed to that 592 ratio. Every other team in Midwaukee had a positive goals for versus goals against.
And I did track the wins that Narragansett got, and You're right to believe that, too, because Narragansett, when they did win pretty lopsidedly. They beat Murdoch 5-0 and 7-1. They beat Trivium, who only had 3 wins last year, 7-0 and 5-1. And they beat the Sizer School out of Fitchburg 9-0 and 9-1. They also were able to pick up a 6-1 win against Ayer Shirley, and they lost the other one 4-3. So you could see a lot of goals scored in just those games.
So when this Gansett team scores, they score in bunches.
Indeed, it's like an onslaught. So Palladian trying to play it for the Red Raiders. Now Ashlyn Duplessis.
Okay, Dan, I know they've legislated heading the ball out of the game this year. You can't just whack it with your arm like Corrine Palladian did, right? She got away with one there.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I didn't see a foul there either.
For a second, I thought she had like the longest, widest shoulders in the world, but no, that just, she stuck out her arm and whacked the ball, and nobody called her for it. So, okay, all right, it's not cheating if you don't get caught, right?
Sometimes that'll happen. So Narragansett trying to find a goal late in this first quarter of play as Davis gets the kick in there and then immediately swarmed by 3 Red Raiders. Haley Allen into the area, but right for a Red Raider again, but they'll try to take it off the feet again. They're trying to pull it off the feet of Palladian. And ultimately the infraction is ruled against the Red Raiders. You can see the official holding his hand up in the air, indicating an indirect free kick, meaning that was a COVID violation. That was a you got too close violation, as opposed to a foul that would have been given in normal play. If it was a foul that would have been given in normal play, then it would be a case where the official would not have his arm up before the free kick was to be paid. As the official redistributes the players, make sure they're all the proper distance away. Can't have walls this year. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well, because walls are not socially distant.
Makes sense.
And so we're approaching the end of this first quarter. The clock will just keep on running through 20 minutes. And when it is officially 20 minutes gone, the official will blow his whistle.
It shouldn't be too long. There really haven't been that many stoppages of any real length. It's been a little choppy, I guess disjointed would be the best term for the play in the first quarter, but that does take us to the end of the first quarter, a scoreless quarter. I think, Dan, Narragansett has obviously controlled the ball better. I wouldn't go quite so far as to say they've looked dangerous, but they do have a couple of shots. That's not nothing.
Yep. Ultimately, 3 shots all on target for Narragansett. Fitchburg, that was not a great quarter offensively, to say the least. Since Georgia Brewer got about 4 seconds of screen time.
Oh, no, it was not 4 seconds. It was 1.5, maybe 4 seconds. No, absolutely not.
Being generous then, aren't I?
It took us more than 10 minutes to even have her existence confirmed. And even then, honestly, it was just a little light blue blur. I've seen better quality pictures of Bigfoot, and Bigfoot probably doesn't exist. So maybe it was just like a splotch on the lens or something. I'm milking this does Georgia Brewer exist myth, because otherwise, with the way Fitchburg's offense is playing, we're not going to be talking that much about her this game, Dan.
By the way, I want to do the old Mitch Hedberg joke, but I forgot the delivery. It's like,
well, if it's a Mitch Hedberg joke, the way to deliver any of them is to just sound like you're stoned, because Mitch Hedberg was stoned, and then forget your punchline halfway through, which somehow adds to the comedy. I don't understand how he had that much charisma, but he just did.
It's like, I think Bigfoot's blurry. That's the problem.
Yep.
That's the joke. Yep.
Why do people complain when the escalator breaks? It's just stairs. We're sorry for the convenience, I guess.
Rice is a great meal when you want to have 2,000 of something. All right, that's 3 more Mitch Hedberg jokes than I think we thought we were ever getting into this broadcast.
We got in Mitch Hedberg jokes before an obscure wrestling reference. What are the odds of that?
I don't think Vegas even wants to think about it.
No. Then again, okay, if you had Mitch Hedberg in your Bolak Gugerty announcing Quip's fantasy league, what the hell are you doing in that level of a fantasy league? I guess.
I'm shrugging, but again, I don't think anyone can actually see that. But anyway, 2-minute quarter breaks, 10-minute halftime breaks here in high school soccer. But now it looks like we've completed that first break. Again, going over the recap, no scoring in the first quarter of play. Narragansett got 3 shots. They were all on target. They weren't all terribly difficult shots, but Council was there, took no chances, and those balls definitely would have gone in the net if she wasn't there.
That's right.
So those are, in fact, shots, and Fitchburg just struggling to really control any amount of territory on that left side of the field.
I would estimate that Fitchburg had possession in Narragansett's side of the field for maybe 30 seconds of that entire first quarter. You know, the rest of the time it was either Gansett playing the ball out or, more often, Gansett having the ball offensively in Fitchburg's end and Fitchburg trying to get it out. You know, the Red Raiders really have not been able to put together any sustained offense in either of the games that we've called, either the one against Quabbin or this first quarter against Narragansett.
Indeed, it did take a little while before Fitchburg had a shot in that game against Quabbin, and the first shot on goal they had in that game was on a penalty. And it's particularly difficult to not have a shot on goal on a penalty.
It's possible. It's conceivable, but you're right. It is difficult. And really, Dan, scoring has been an issue for Fitchburg for a couple of years now. You know, aside from Murdoch, Fitchburg was the lowest ranked offense in Midwatch E last season. They only put 61 goals in. The next lowest were Air Shirley and West Boylston, who both had 70.
And then, of course, making things challenging for the Raiders this year was the fact that El Scott had 41 of the 61 goals. That only left a maximum of 20 that could return for the Red Raiders.
And this really does look like a team, Dan, that had that singular offensive presence and is now trying to figure out what to do without her.
That can be the challenge when you have a game-breaking player on your side. As that one distributed out across midfield and knocked out of bounds. Now, because these two teams play in the same conference, they both play in Midwash. That means that, unlike the last matchup that we had with Fitchburg and Quabbin, where the two teams hadn't seen each other in who knows how long, Fitchburg and Narragansett see each other twice a year normally. This year it'll be 3 times, but twice a year normally. And last year, the Red Raiders did win both of those games, 8-3 and 4-3.
If I asked you, Dan, do you think Fitchburg will get 8 shots in this game, let alone 8 goals, what would you say?
At this current pace, obviously no, but Zoe Meyer's going to have this free kick here. And a chance to put it into the area as it pinballs around. And there is a turning shot, and Georgia Brewer has made a save.
Okay, I will give it up. Georgia Brewer exists.
For the first time in this game, she's had to do something. And now the Red Raiders will need her to do a lot more than that. It does make me wonder, though, the first game against Oakmont played to a scoreless draw. How many shots did the two teams have in that game, I wonder? No recap was posted online, so I have no idea.
two teams play in a stadium without fans and nobody scores, does the game make a sound?
Well, normally in those philosophical circumstances, there aren't cameras around to gauge the question. Cameras and microphones. So Kareem Palladian will have the kick in here. And that was clearly way too much contact there by Michelle Tomei.
Maybe it was just our video feed, and we're not there in person. This is happening in the far-reaching, distant past, and I apologize if I'm slandering anybody when I say this. Did Michelle Tomei just grab Emily Kilbury by the hair and yank her down? Because that's what I saw.
She grabbed her and yanked her down, and she just got a yellow card.
Okay.
And that is, and so this is the third soccer game that I've been a part of since we've started broadcasting Red Raider athletics here this fall, and that's the first yellow card that I have seen.
If yanking someone down by her hair is a yellow card, I am hesitant to wonder what's a straight red.
I was thinking maybe she'd got her more by the shoulder or the jersey, but as we mentioned, we didn't have the perfect look on it ourselves. But it was absolutely deserving of a card. So goal kick for the Red Raiders. That one pushed towards the area. Not a lot of force on that one. That was Ashley Kilbury trying to find one of her teammates cutting in, but nobody really able to get there. The team's battling for it here in the 25th minute of the contest. Zoe Meyer with the kick on, but knocked back. Now to midfield, settled by Davis. And whistle.
I think they're going to get Kareen Palladian for probably just, incidental contact. She wound up tripping Julie Davis more than anything intentional, but their legs did get tangled up.
Yep. And with the official having his arm in the air, in fact, an indirect free kick. So, yep, definitely one of those incidental contacts that was just a little too much in the year 2020, but probably would have been fine in 2019.
Now, Dan, are they only awarding indirect free kicks for that sort of thing, or are there just, basic fouls that would ordinarily be decided as an indirect free kick?
For the most part, if they call a foul that would award a free kick, then it would still be just a free kick, a direct free kick, meaning one that you can kick directly in to the goal and have it count. But on the indirect free kicks where the ball has to be touched by another player before it can be put into the goal legally, it's like for all of the COVID violations, whether it be heading the ball, slide tackling, or making too much contact, and kick-ins as well, all of those are going to be considered indirect free kicks.
I see. Okay.
Because they don't want to change the game too much, we'll say.
Right. You don't want to suddenly find yourself awarding a lot of direct free kicks, greatly increasing the scoring, anything like that.
Especially since walls aren't allowed either. Heard in a couple of soccer games of players with slightly higher skills when they are getting awarded a free kick close to the penalty area and it's a direct free kick. It's often a case of just have the player blast it right on goal, and there may not necessarily be much that they can do to stop it.
It's a very sound strategy. If you can't put up a wall in front of it, just whack it as hard as you can and hope the goalkeeper doesn't make the save.
So about 7 minutes gone here in the second quarter. No score. Shots are 4-1 in favor of Narragansett. Shots on goal are 3-1. Same advantage obviously applies there. This is Ava Burke who will have the kick in here. She is one of two 8th graders on this roster. Emily Kilbury is the other one.
both Burke and Kilbury in the starting lineup today for Narragansett. No proof of that, Dan, but I would have to suspect that that is probably at least a little bit due to the fact that Gansett played just 24 hours ago, again losing to Quabbin 5-0. Back end of a back-to-back for them. Fitchburg on the front end. They, let's say, will play Gardner tomorrow. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. It's all weird.
Yes, because as we record this, that game's already happened. But unlike last week, I don't have any spoilers.
Good.
So I have no idea how this game is going to go.
I will say you did a good job. If you didn't tell us you knew, we wouldn't know you knew. Does that make sense? You did a good job last week is what I'm trying to say.
Burke will have the kick in here. Fitchburg sustaining a little bit of zone time here as Meyer trying to move it to the center of the field, trying to turn and get to a good spot. Pushes it to the right side. Fitchburg still trying to step up here. Butler's going to have a shot for goal, and it got Brewer diving to her right, but ends up going just wide.
Full extension reaching out with her right hand was Georgia Brewer, but ultimately it'll be a goal kick for the Warriors.
That's obviously the best chance really that Fitchburg has had. Butler, that dangerous striker for the Red Raiders, the only player who'd scored more than 4 goals who returned for the Red Raiders. I mean, there may have been players who had scored a bunch of goals that had returned, but the Telegram and Gazette only tracked the players who had put up more than 5 points, and Butler was the only returning player who had done that. Narragansett on the other side has 3 of such players in Maddie Ambrogi, Ashley Kilbury, and Julie Davis. Butler across. Now for Meyer. There's Brulette. As the ball gets turned back towards midfield by Narragansett. They're trying to make a run here. Narragansett into the area. And a shot on, they score!
Just a fantastic individual effort. Maddie Ambrogi with the goal. I think if that had not gone in, Dan, Narragansett would have been awarded a penalty.
I think so as well because of the contact there. Well done for Maddie to get the shot off there, and got the shot off she did, and just sneaking it inside that near post. And Narragansett has the first strike in this contest.
The Warriors controlled the pace of play for pretty much the entire first quarter. It felt inevitable that they were going to score, but when they do, it's on the counterattack. Fitchburg had been doing a better job controlling the ball here in the second quarter, but Narragansett gets that one opportunity. Really, it's Maddie Ambrogi making the opportunity. She beat a couple of Raiders going up that left side and ultimately got the goal.
Ambrogi had 11 goals last season for this Narragansett team, leading all returning players. And she shows off how dangerous she can be with that strike there. Fitchburg would like to counter here. They've gotten a couple of shots here in the second quarter. Definitely a marked improvement. But that was the first big chance they'd given up, and of course, a disastrous chance in the grand scheme of things.
And an unforced error there, just kicking the ball out of bounds on their own defensive end. I think the Warriors started play a little bit earlier than they could have there.
Proper distance most likely not given. And now Fitchburg's going to get the ball back on that.
"12 minutes gone here in the second quarter. Narragansett leading Fitchburg by a score of 1-0 from Crocker Field.
Looks like after some discussion, Narragansett will be allowed to keep the ball there on the kick-in. Fitchburg's defense has at least been solid when they've been able to set up, but obviously getting them on the break there was to Narragansett's advantage, and now Jordan Butler going to try to duplicate that feat, although a lot of Warriors getting back there. Butler just trying to find some space and time to shoot, but can be challenging.
She was weaving in and out and around 4 or 5 Warriors players, trying to find a way to set up for a shot.
That'll be knocked out of bounds. And it looks like it's going to be looks like it'll be a corner for Fitchburg.
First corner of the game for the Red Raiders. I believe they had a couple against Quabbin in the game we called last week.
I believe so as well.
And the Raiders will set up and take this one short again.
That one ends up getting nudged out of bounds for a goal kick, so now
really good opportunity for Fitchburg, but it comes to nothing. I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we said that Georgia Brewer wears light blue, but it's actually a two-tone jersey because on the front it actually is yellow. As Fitchburg, getting a little more of the zone time that they would like, we get to see a little more of the Narragansett keeper.
Those flashy goalkeepers, they just, oh, I can wear any color I want. I'll wear all the colors.
Well, that's the keeper's right. The important thing is that they don't look like their teammates.
That's true.
And preferably not like the other team either.
That would be ideal, yes. It would be weird if she was wearing white and black and red.
Be unusual for many reasons. So corner awarded to Narragansett. So we approach 5 minutes to go in this first half of play. Not enough oomph on the cross there, but Gansett going to try to take it on the bounce. Ultimately pushed out of bounds.
And again, the Fitchburg defense just content to boot it out of bounds, make everybody stop and hang on for a second while they regather themselves. They'll try to win it off of the kick-in or just concede a corner for some reason.
Didn't go as they'd planned there. And another corner awarded to the Warriors. Give and go on the corner leads to not a lot, and Fitchburg able to kick it out back into their own bench as it goes off a knee. And another kick in for Narragansett.
And Fitchburg is playing like a team that is leading by 1 goal with 5 minutes to go in the match, as opposed to a team that is trailing by 1 with 5 minutes to go in the half.
The defense, when it's set up, has been doing well to limit Narragansett's chances. It's just that one breakdown that we saw on the transition where Narragansett was able to make the Red Raiders pay. So they're definitely, in a sense, entrenched to that strong defense, but right now they have been really struggling to get the ball out of their own half of the field. Fitchburg knocking it out there, and should be a kick in. Although it's almost like a corner with how things are set up there. It's able to push it into the area, settled down in front by the Red Raiders. Now the run on the near side, Elysium Fernandez. Back along, Alexis Silverberg. And that goes off a Red Raider foot. The foot of Kareem Palladian.
Just struck a little too hard for Palladian. I think she was trying to take it in and keep the momentum going upfield, but she didn't set her feet and make sure she could secure possession of the ball. So it ultimately bounced off her toe, went out of bounds, and now it's a kick in for the Warriors.
See Sarah Jansen's one of the 3 captains running onto the field there. Looked like a late substitution. As you can see her switching places with Emma Oakley. Jansen's the lone senior on this Narragansett roster. Another kick in, Natalie Medlin. Goes right off the foot of Elysian Fernandez. That's 6-on-6 there. And
We're just going to keep doing this all day, Dan. Natalie Medlin's going to kick it in. Fernandez is going to boot it out. They're going to go 5 yards downfield, and we'll do it again.
And eventually we'll have a corner at some point.
Yeah. Or they'll get to, Leominster.
Do that 600 times and you end up at Doyle Field. Goes all the way back into the Gansett end. Having a little bit of trouble holding it on. Palladian ends up and the kick there off the back of Kilbury. But she'll be able to recover it on the hop, leave it, get it back. And she's still going here, gets a shot on. Misses wide to the right, but not by a whole lot.
Emily Kilbury had just one woman to beat in Zoe Meyer. She decided rather than trying to beat Meyer, she would take the shot from distance. Wound up going wide, and it'll be a goal kick for the Raiders.
Palladian will run over to take the goal kick as we approach the final scheduled minute of the first half. As the Red Raiders just trying to move it out downfield. Of note, the players don't necessarily know how much time has elapsed. As we mentioned, the scoreboard's not on there at Crocker Field. The time on your screen is just an estimate.
Official time kept by the referees on the field. Now, Dan, would they be doing much communicating with the players, saying, 2 minutes left, 2 minutes stoppage time, anything like that? Or is it really just a matter of keep playing until you hear the whistle?
I think it is keep playing until you hear the whistle. In that case, that is the whistle for halftime. So we only went a couple seconds over. We were more or less there.
Narragansett goes to the half with the lead of 1-0 over Fitchburg. And Dan, that it feels about right. Narragansett really controlled the first quarter, didn't get anything but a few shots out of it. Fitchburg wound up basically not having the ball at all for the first quarter. They did a little better on the offensive end in the second quarter. Only got, I believe it was 1 shot on target out of it.
Yep, from my count, just a single shot for Fitchburg on target in that second quarter, and 2 shots in total after being shut out in that first quarter of play. And as for Narragansett, they have 6 shots in the contest, 4 on target. In that second quarter, they got 3 shot attempts, and the only one that was on target found the back of the net.
And just like that, our thanks to Assistant Director George Lucas for the clock wipe. We are here ready for the third quarter of action, starting the second half.
So Narragansett will have the ball to start this second half. As we mentioned, halftime is 10 minutes, but thanks to the magic of editing, you won't have to sit through that 10 minutes. And now the 2 teams have switched sides, so Narragansett will be going from right to left.
All right, it wasn't George Lucas. I do seriously want to thank 99% sure it was Travis Falk putting that together for us. Travis and Nate Glenning have just been invaluable in bringing these games to you folks at home. Again, we're not going to harp on it as much as we did last week, but as long as we can bring these games to you in a way that is minimally dangerous to the FATV staff and crew and does not in any way increase the risk for the players and officials on the field, we're going to do it, because we know there are fans at home who would be at these games but shouldn't and can't be So if we can put a camera there, if we can get myself and Danny together at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning to do a Zoom call and do play-by-play for you, we're going to do it because, we like doing it and we think it's important to do it. So that's my thing. I'll shut up now.
Yep. And I know on the games in which I've been there in person, which we've had a couple of those, we've made sure that I've stayed socially distant. Like, for example, on Wednesday when I did the boys' soccer game against Gardner, I was at least a good 20 or 30 feet away from Travis Falk, who was on the other side of the press box. We kept very good distancing there.
Beautiful press box at Crocker Field, isn't it, Dan?
Yep, that was the first game I'd ever gotten to call in the Crocker Field press box. And that was just a really unique experience.
I enjoy calling games at Elliott Field. I don't want to impugn Fitchburg State University, my alma mater, in any way. That press box is a GD sardine can, especially compared to the spacious, luxurious press box at historic Crocker Field. I always enjoy calling games from there. Looking forward to hopefully next fall. I'm laughing at the prospect, but hopefully I'll be back calling games with Dave Clark and Mike Flynn next fall from Crocker Field. But for now, I'm calling them from my living room, and my living room has charms as well.
And it doesn't require 2 hours of travel to get there either.
That's right. I would get laughed at if I wore my pajamas to Crocker Field.
Don't think we'd be able to get away with it. Then again, it's like, I don't wear shorts outside the house. I'm wearing shorts now.
There you go.
So we're in the 3rd minute of the second half here, 43rd minute of the contest. Narragansett with a 1-0 lead as Maddie Ambrogi striking in the 30th minute of the contest, the lone strike in this one. Right now, Fitchburg, again, having those issues trying to get the ball upfield. That pass out of the reach of Kaya Hidanovic. And Ava Burke, again, one of the 2 8th graders on this roster for Narragansett.
You see, Dan, as time has gone by, the shadows are creeping a little bit more over the field. They've pretty much encompassed the whole of the left side. It's got to be difficult for the players to adjust to the constantly changing visibility and sunlight as the sun gets lower and lower in the sky.
I know at one point during this game, I could see Tanila Council with her hands trying to shade the sun from her eyes. Just trying to look in the direction of the near sideline with the sun in her way, really wreaking havoc. Crocker Field runs more or less west to east, so it does make things a little challenging there. That one loose in the area. That'll be a chance, and that will be a goal for Abby Belil off the hands of Tanila Council, and it's 2-0 Narragansett.
A breakdown on every front by Fitchburg. The defense broke down, letting Abby Belil find herself in space right in front of the goal to where she had a point-blank shot. And then, Dan, that was the 7th goal that I've called this season conceded by Fitchburg. It was the first one where I really thought Tanila Council could have done better. She got her hands on that ball, but she wasn't able to control it. She wasn't able to bring it down. It just basically went right through her hands. And, obviously it's a difficult save to make. It's a point-blank shot. It was very well struck, but I've got to think if you're Tanila Council, you're thinking you got 2 hands on that ball. You've got to at least bat it out away from the net and not let it go through your hands and get in.
You'll be thinking it's probably a bit frustrating, too, that she was there. She had gotten close to position. She just got caught out by the timing, how it escalated so quickly that Belil was able to get that chance that quickly off the free kick. And just, I know, speaking as a goaltender, it's kind of rough when you're there, you got a piece of it, and it still went in the net. But now Narragansett leads 2-0 on the goal from the freshman midfielder, Abby Belil. It's continuing the run of play as Ashley Kilberry on the right side. Double team there, Palladian trying to take it off her foot. And Haley Allen trying to move that along as well, so that'll go out of bounds. One of the things you'll notice too is when a player goes to retrieve that ball, they make sure to only use their feet, as they do have a rule that states that if the ball is touched with the hands, the ball has become contaminated and must be removed from play.
Right, and again, that's just, doing as much as you can, even with a little thing like that that might seem a little silly. If it takes the risk from 0.14% to 0.11%, it's worth doing. So you do it.
And as we saw, the goalkeepers can still touch the ball with their hands, but they have gloves on their hands.
That's true.
And we were also able to see while we were talking about that how absolutely windy it is at Crocker Field.
Very windy at the moment. The far flag stick was at maybe it was blown over to maybe a 30-degree angle to the ground.
Trying to hang on for dear life, essentially. Spalil settling it up, and a shot turned towards goal by Batty Ambrogi, looking for her second, but ends up hitting the left side of the net.
Ambrogi, 11 goals for her last season, leading all of the returning Warriors.
Ashley Kilberry, she had 10 goals, and Ambrogi, a junior. Kilberry, a sophomore. Julie Davis had 4 goals and 5 assists. She's a junior, and one of the captains on this side as well.
This is a very young squad for Wachusett, Dan. They only dress 1 senior. That'll be Sarah Jansen's one of the captains. Fitchburg, on the other hand, 5 seniors for them.
For Narragansett, in fact, yes. A very young roster. They only lost a handful of players, I believe, from last year. A big turnaround for them. They went from 4 wins to 7 wins in Kylie Cleveland's first season as the head coach of the Warriors. Just missed the playoffs by not a whole lot. And Cleveland named Coach of the Year in Mid-Washee for her efforts.
Both of these teams, Dan, are coached by women in their second season. Yanina Fusaro is in her second season leading the Fitchburg side.
Indeed, in the turnaround they made, it's like in another season, maybe Fusaro would have been Coach of the Year, but obviously not a whole lot was expected out of Narragansett, and to turn around the way they did and get up from 4-11-1 to 7-9-2 earned Cleveland the respect to give her the Coach of the Year award. And from there, too, she was also named back in April head coach of the girls basketball team, too. So she's expected to have her first season in charge of that squad this winter, although how the sport of basketball will appear to us still remains to be seen.
That's, I mean, you talk about how, there's physical incidental contact in soccer, and you can only legislate so much of that out of the game before it's a totally different game. And at that point, is it worth playing? I mean, it goes up another level when you're talking about basketball.
And you think about ice hockey as well, but at least the one positive with ice hockey is pretty much the entire body is covered.
That is true.
So there's not as... So is there more inherent risk? It's an interesting question to ponder, but I'll leave that to the proper authorities to figure out how they want to deal with that.
Yeah, as long as epidemiologists are the one making these calls and not, hockey coaches, I think we'll be okay. So fingers crossed.
So reaching the halfway point of this third quarter of play, 50th minute completed here from historic Crocker Field. 2-0 Narragansett in front. Goals for Batty Ambrogi and Abby Balil. That one knocked out of bounds. And again, Fitchburg off to another slow start in this quarter because, again, we're into Georgia Brewer watch. We haven't seen her yet in this quarter, have we?
Maybe she just, is sitting on the bench. We can't prove that she's not. I'm not going to do the conspiracy theory gimmick again, but you're right, Dan. Fitchburg's offense now finally getting their first real attack, and it immediately fizzles and comes to nothing.
Yes, Abby.
Battle forward on the near side. as Belil gets around Meyer, pokes it towards the area. LeVigueur will kick it out. So that's going to be a corner for Narragansett. Unfortunately, they turn it over as much as they can, and
you are limited by the constraints of your working area, and if you have to cut off just that little tiny corner of the field, you'll live with it and hope there aren't too many corners there.
Best you can hope for there. Ooh, there's something interesting. Number 23 for the Red Raiders.
I don't have a number 23 on my roster, Dan.
That's a call-up for the junior varsity roster, which I do not have in front of me. But what I know I can do, though, is when there's a good stoppage in play, I can pull out my cell phone, pull up the email that did have the JV roster attached, but I didn't copy anyone over because we didn't see anyone from the JV squad in last week's game, and I thought maybe we would be able to get away with that, but nope.
I tell you what, Dan, why don't you do it, and I'll just do play-by-play for the rest of this third quarter. What's the worst that can possibly happen?
Have a go at it.
All right, Natalie Medlin will handle the kick in here for the Warriors. We've got about 7.5 minutes to play unofficially here in the third quarter of action from historic Crocker Field. Narragansett leading the Red Raiders by a score of 2-0. I'm John Gugerty, joined, of course, by Dan Bolak here on FATV. Thank you, folks, so much for being here with us. Zoe Meyer will handle the kick in now for the Raiders. Really, one thing I've noticed in this game, really from the start, Gansett coming in was coming off of having just played 24 hours earlier. They're on the second half of a back-to-back, but they don't look like it. Fitchburg, if anything, looks like a team that is a little slow, maybe a little tired, and for them, they have to turn around and play again 24 hours from, air quotes around the word now, 24 hours from when this game was played, they had to turn around and play Gardner. Now the kick-in is intercepted. Good chance in the area. Breaking free from a player. Maddie Ambrogi takes the shot. Council gets a hand on it, but can't bring it in. That is a goal. Maddie Ambrogi, her second goal of the game, breaks it wide open. It is 3-0 in favor of the Warriors. Dan, that was another shot. Point blank, very well struck. It's a very difficult save for Tanila Council, but she got her hands on it and couldn't bring it in.
It's frustrating enough, like I said, as a goalie to give up a goal like that, but to do it twice in a quarter just really hurts.
And you saw there as we went back to midfield, you can still see top of your screen, Tanila Council very frustrated. She got her hands on that one, just couldn't make the save. It's a difficult task for her. The Fitchburg defense has conceded a lot of opportunities. We saw it in the game against Quabbin. We're seeing it again here against Narragansett. It's a very difficult ask for Tanila Council, but she's still got to be frustrated with herself. Hopefully she can put in a better performance for the last 25 minutes of action here. Gansett on the attack once again. Fitchburg's defense will swarm and try to keep it away from them. Good offensive play there by Abby Belil, just keeping the pressure on, forcing Fitchburg further and further back. LeVigueur going back and forth. LeVigueur will finally boot it out. Gathered there by Fitchburg, and they will at least get it across the midfield line. Jordan Butler trying to make something happen here. Butler now sends it up to the far side. Looking for Elysium Fernandez. Fernandez keeps it in but loses control. And Gansett will gather it back. Up along the far side here, Palladian playing it in the midfield. Ashlyn Duplessis on top of her. And that goes out of bounds. It'll be a kick-in. No, excuse me. Looks like they're going to give a free kick to the Red Raiders. Palladian just kind of booted that one forward. Nobody really in the area. Closest player to it was Emily Kilberry of Narragansett. Now it comes out of bounds on the near side. Saw Natalie Medlin there for Narragansett, but it will be a kick in for the Red Raiders as we approach the 16-minute mark here in this third quarter. Just 4 minutes to play, again, unofficially. Abby Belil sends it all the way down. Face down there and just gently nudged out of bounds by Alexa Silverberg. Silverberg really didn't even make an effort to keep that ball in play and turn it around. She was content to just knock it over the end line and give Narragansett the kick in.
At that point, she felt that that was a better alternative than the possibility of turning it over and then another great scoring chance for Narragansett in transition. She wanted to make sure her side's defense had a chance to really get back there and get in position where they could go and try to stop any potential attacks there from the Warriors.
Maddie Ambrogi looking for the hat trick. Shot is blocked. Never got on target. Set up in center again, but this trickles all the way back to Tamila Council, and Council's able to gather that one in, and she'll just punt it away. One thing to keep an eye on, again, is kicks from the goalkeeper are not allowed to go past the midfield line. That's part of the MIAA trying to legislate aerial play and heading out of the game. Cross opportunity is blocked. Fitchburg gathers and once again just boots it out of bounds. It'll be another kick in for the Warriors. They lead this one 3-0, look to make that a 4-0 lead. And Dan, 3 is commanding enough, but if it's 4, it's just, we can close this one up early, I think.
Just makes it all the more challenging. Another great opportunity there.
Shot from Ashley Kilbury. I believe that one just went wide, or perhaps was gathered in by Council. She'll punt it up. And Fitchburg will try to make something happen. Jordan Butler crosses midfield. Now passes along the far side, but that is well defended there. I believe that was Julie Davis, the captain.
Indeed it was, with those distinctive braided twin tails there.
Elysium Fernandez will handle the kick in for the Raiders. Nope, she will pass it off to Corrine Palladian. Palladian will get it into Ariana Lopez. Over to Meyer. Meyer aggressively defended by Ashley Kilbury. Some real pushing and shoving and nudging, and they will finally blow the whistle. The official with a withering glance like, come on, man, I'm just playing soccer here. But I think the referee was not having any of that.
Saw, I think, 2 hands in the back there as well, and that's what the referee saw. He's calling a direct free kick for this one, so that would have been a foul in any other type of play.
It certainly looked a little more aggressive than you'd like to see from the defender there. This one booted in from the Raiders, coming all the way up to play it herself. Finally getting her hands on the ball this quarter is Georgia Brewer. And she will kick it long, just short of the midfield stripe. A really good kick by Brewer, getting the ball way downfield there while still maintaining, within the rules. Didn't get to midfield, it just got very close and then bounced over. That's legal.
That's the importance there. It really does make a difference, that extra yard. I know in the game that I called the day before there against Gardner, the boys soccer game, the Gardner keeper twice ended up kicking it directly on the hop over midfield. And definitely had that egg on his face expression there when that happened. Like, whoops, that is a thing I'm not allowed to do.
And Brogy tried to find Ashlyn Duplessis. Broken up by Corrine Palladian. Duplessis winds up booting it out of bounds. It'll be a kick in for the Red Raiders. We've crossed the 20-minute mark here in the third quarter. There will probably be a little bit of added stoppage time, but not much. If the Raiders want to make something happen, they'll have to do it quick. But they are, in fact, just going to blow the whistle, and that'll be the end of the third quarter. Narragansett has broken this one open, and they score twice in the third and carry a 3-0 lead as we head into the final 20 minutes.
Yep, that was obviously the best quarter Narragansett's played in this one, as they end up turning, from my count, 7 shots in the direction of the Red Raider goal, and ultimately, with that, 4 shots on goal as well, and 2 of them finding the back of the net.
4 shots on target, 2 goals, and I think you'll take that if you're Narragansett.
Meanwhile, Fitchburg, for the second time in this game, failed to get a shot on target or a shot on at all in a quarter. They weren't able to get a shot towards Georgia Brewer in the first quarter. The only time we ended up seeing her, really, for the most part, was picking up a ball in the area.
Yeah, there were a couple of balls toward the end of the third quarter where Fitchburg tried to play it long, maybe hook up something and make something happen quickly, but the passes were a little bit too long, and Georgia Brewer was able to come up and play the ball. So, Dan, I gave you plenty of time to stall and vamp. I'm sure everybody has been on pins and needles. Can you tell me who wears number 23 for the Fitchburg Red Raiders?
It's Kinsey Martineau.
Okay. Kinsey Martineau. Your name has been said on FATV twice now.
Indeed, and I saw number 24 out there while that quarter was going on.
Do tell.
And that is Sari Reynoso.
Okay.
They are both freshmen, both from the JV roster. We will make certain to have those players added to our internal stat sheets for the following games. That way we will not have to worry about me having to scramble and find the JV roster.
That's right.
So how about that? As for Narragansett, based on certain rules, I do not believe that they have a JV roster.
Okay, you're going to have to elaborate. Based on certain rules?
I believe the rules are that if you do have an 8th grader on your roster, and I believe, not 100% certain on this, but I believe the rule is that the 8th grader can only play for the lowest level of competition available.
I see. So if you're in a situation where you have this, 8th grade wunderkind who's a soccer prodigy, you're faced with, well, I want this kid on my varsity team, but I have to disband my JV team. It's not worth it. In Narragansett's case, they probably just did not have a JV team.
I think in this case, I believe there's also rules that say, we had Gardner on yesterday. Gardner is an 8 through 12 school, and from what I'm aware of, Gardner is allowed to use 8th graders because that's part of the school itself under the principal of the high school. Narragansett and Murdoch both have middle schools that are part of the same building as the high schools, but they have different principals. So my question on jurisdiction there wasn't able to get 100% clear answers on whether or not those players are purely allowed from that standpoint.
Man, you poke at the bureaucracy just a tiny little bit and you reveal so much more, and it's all vaguely horrifying. And can't we just get back to talking about soccer? Let's talk about soccer.
Yeah, especially things where I'm not 100% certain what the rules are. This is an indirect free kick for the Red Raiders, which means they cannot boot it directly towards the goal here. But what they can do is Meyer can make a little touch here, and then Butler can go right to goal, and the shot is blocked.
I know you said they're not allowed to have walls. That was a very wall-like gathering of players by Narragansett right in front of that free kick.
They were pretty close, but I guess, were they more than an arm's length? I guess that might be the ruling they try to use there.
Absolutely less than an arm's length away.
Well, they've let it happen.
Toddlers have arms shorter than that. They were very close together is the joke I'm trying to make.
Natalie Medlin will have the kick in here. Pinballs around in this near side quarter. Brenda Berry wants to turn and shoot. That one goes off the foot of Ariana Lopez. She'll try to distribute it out of danger, but sent back into the area. Now settled down by the Red Raiders. On the near side, still trying to push on is Medlin into the area. Belil has a goal already in this contest. Settled Kilberry along to the right side for Davis. Davis battling with Amber McCloskey, I think that would be, as Elysium Fernandez will help that ball get out of bounds, and she'll leave it as it'll be a kick in for her side.
Davis having trouble with one of her boots there. See, I know soccer terms. I said boot.
She's actually going to go off to the bench for a sub there. As at this point, it's just more efficient for her to just fix it while she's on the bench itself, as opposed to holding up the game for a minute or 7.
So for those watching at home, and I know we haven't done a lot of soccer, especially at the high school level here on FATV, why don't you give the folks at home, and definitely not me, I definitely know the rule, and I'm not setting you up to tell me. Why don't you give the folks at home, Dan, a refresher on the substitution rules? Like, we just saw Davis go off to take care of her shoe. Obviously, she's going to be back, right?
Yes. So the substitution rules are behind a paywall.
Okay, so the point is, it's not like, your pro-style European soccer where you get 3 subs, and once you sub, you're out of the game forever. It's very dramatic. No, it's not like that.
No, it's
coming
not.
on and off.
Yep, and I've seen play. So yeah, I will freely admit that no, I do not know exactly what the substitution rules are.
Okay.
For high school soccer.
Well, the point is, it is not the dramatic, earth-shattering event that folks who are used to watching the Premier League or La Liga or anything like that would be like, oh my goodness, there was a substitution. No, it is not like that. It is, it's high school. We need to take breathers and get water and that sort of thing.
In yesterday's game, I saw an instance where 2 players got really heated at each other. The coaches subbed them off, and they decided to sub them off for basically 1 run of play. So once the ball got kicked out of bounds again, they then came back on.
Hey, you two, stop yelling at each other. Go vent your frustrations by kicking the ball at those other guys. Okay? Get back out there.
So I believe the substitution rules here in high school soccer are probably along the lines of, dude, just don't worry about it. There may be limitations. I know in college the rule is you get one, you can be subbed out once in a, let me think about this for a moment as council gathers that in and throws it back into play, is in the first half, once you're subbed out, you can't re-enter, is the rule in college. And then in the second half, you can re-enter once. So if you're subbed out, you can come back in once, and then something along those lines. And then in the overtimes, it's for each of the 2 10-minute sessions that they play. It's once you're subbed out, you can't be subbed back in for the remainder of that period. And I feel like the substitution rules, from what I've seen, are a little more liberal than that. But how much more? I'm going to have to do more research.
Oh, no. All of this is much more eventful than the past couple of minutes of action, unfortunately, especially if you're a Fitchburg fan. Fitchburg, again, not really able to get any kind of sustained offensive pressure. We saw a little bit of a run from them there, but it came to not that much. Looks like the Raiders will get maybe a kick in out of it.
Gives them a chance to get a little bit of pressure here. Butler setting it up in the proper spot. I think with how this game has gone, the Raiders would like to have a goal. There's nothing coming of that necessarily. And when I say of that necessarily, I meant of the original contact. I think something came of the contact after that, and Fitchburg will have a penalty.
Yeah, you saw the far side official, the dark-haired gentleman in the yellow jersey, just kind of shrug her shoulders and look at the play like, come on, you can't do that. What are you doing? Like, that was a pretty clear trip in the box, and it will be a penalty. And once again, Zoe Meyer taking it for the Raiders.
Meyer took the penalty against Quabbin. She scored on that one, and she does not score on this one.
Tried to go top right. I believe that's where she went last week against Quabbin, Dan. This time she gets a little too much on it, a little too high, a little bit too far to the right. Just flies that one beyond the goal. Doesn't even test Georgia Brewer. It'll be a shot, but not one on target. Weren't we talking earlier about how it's difficult to not get a shot on target out of a penalty?
Yes, and that accidentally turned into foreshadowing.
Well, it's the best kind of foreshadowing. Kind that you don't even know is.
Way better than the other foreshadowing that I would have to do last week, which I knew that goals were coming at various points, but I didn't know when those points were or how they were happening. But now back to soccer, so Fitchburg unable to get the goal on the penalty, and it remains 3-0 in favor of Narragansett.
And that's got to be frustrating for Fitchburg. There's no kind way to say it. You've been outplayed thus far. You are justly down, but there's still time left. There's still, 12 and a half, 13 minutes at the time of the shot. You're trying to get back into this one. You've got an opportunity pretty much gift wrapped for you, and you can't take advantage of it. You've got to pick yourselves up, get back out there, and try to make something happen quickly here, which they are doing. They do have the ball in the Gansett end for a moment.
Still trying to do something with that necessarily. It's definitely been a bit challenging for them in this contest to really sustain pressure. Only 4 shots for the Red Raiders in this contest, only a single shot on target that came back in the second quarter. Meanwhile, from my count, I've got 13 shots for Narragansett and 8 on target, although one slight positive is I don't have any shot attempts for Narragansett in this fourth quarter. So Fitchburg in this quarter alone out shooting the Warriors, but then again, it's not amounting to a whole lot when the score is as it is. And now we see Julie Davis has come back into the game. The issue with her boot has been fixed. Just kept in by Butler. Sends that across, and Brewer will dive out to cut that at the head.
Pretty good idea there. Try to get, the low cross across the field. I think Amber McCloskey was coming in from the far side to finish that off. But unfortunately for Fitchburg, it was played a little too close to the goaltender to begin with, and Georgia Brewer was able to come really not that far out of her net and play it.
Crosses do not count as a shot. However, you see what Georgia Brewer just did? Booted it straight over the midline.
Can't do that.
So an indirect free kick paid to the Red Raiders on the midline. She's got a wonderful boot there, the junior keeper and captain for this Warrior side, but obviously a bit too exuberant there. And that's another one of those things that goalies have to unlearn basically in this era of high school soccer 2020.
She'll get another opportunity to get it right here, though.
She'll boot that downfield, and
ooh, that was close.
That was very, very close. Ooh, it's just like you're wondering, like those punts in football when they try to pin it inside the 5. Did they get it to the goal line? Did it touch it? Is it a touchback? Is it on the 1?
It very much is. You're trying to coffin corner. And that's clearly what she's doing. She's trying to get it very, very close to the midline, try to get as much value out of it as she can. With Tamila Council's punts, it's just been kind of, stick your boot through it, get it, 2/3 of the way up there. It's no big deal. But, you can tell that Brewer is really trying to get that ball as close to the line as she can.
It's like The Price is Right. Get as close as you can without going over. And she does not
now
get
you're going to have me singing the cliffhanger song every time there's a goal kick. Nobody wants that.
And she does not get $500 if she puts it directly on the line.
Well, what good is it then?
I know, I was thinking cliffhangers as well. About to finish the 72nd minute of this contest. Narragansett up 3-0. A brace for Maddie Ambrogi. She's got 2 on the contest. And those sandwich a goal from Abby Belil. Narragansett already with their season high in goals scored in this contest, 2 against Oakmont and none against Quabbin. Of course, this is a terribly small sample size here.
And yet, if you're Fitchburg, Dan, you've got to be thinking, okay, this is the 3rd game of the season. We've only scored in one of them. Hopefully for the Red Raiders, they score in the next 7.5 minutes here, but I think it's highly unlikely that they're even going to secure a draw out of this. So you're going down to 0-2-1, and then you have to turn around and play again tomorrow in Gardner.
Indeed, and now this is going to be a question for, the dark and distant future or whatever. At the end of this game, should I look up what the score was of the Gardner game and say that on this broadcast?
I mean, I don't believe we are going to record commentary for it, so yeah, I'll do that.
So yeah, I think I'll wait until the end of the game, or when it's very close to the end, I'll look up the score, and then from there, we'll know how did the Red Raiders fare in. As we record this, as we mentioned, it's Saturday morning. We've been kept spoiler-free of all of these results. So we have no idea how this game ends, and we have no idea how that game went, although as we record it, it's already happened. The weird things about recording for tape delay.
And again, these games do air live without commentary, so if you know when a game is taking place at Crocker Field, or I believe we're going to be broadcasting the field hockey games from the Game On facility live without commentary as well, and then coming back and recording after the fact with myself and Dan. So if you know when the game is scheduled, we'll absolutely bring it to you live. But just because of, the way schedules work, I know I have a full-time job, and Dan, you have a job in retail as well. There are places that we just can't be there live all the time. So live without commentary, and then commentary after the fact is the way we'll be handling girls and boys soccer, as well as field hockey for at least some of the events. Some of them we can get you live commentary, because some of them Dan can just get down there himself. But some we do what we can.
Mm-hmm. And looking at Narragansett's schedule, their next game after this, they're playing Gardner. In fact, they started playing Gardner at the time we started this recording.
I see.
Interestingly enough.
It's all sorts of weird.
So it's funny. So while we're calling Narragansett playing soccer, Narragansett is playing soccer.
That's right. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Did you expect me to get 2 bad George Lucas references in here? I didn't, and yet we did.
So less than 5 minutes to go in regulation time from historic Crocker Field. Narragansett up 3-0. As we've gone down these discussions, down these rabbit holes, there's been some soccer played, but really both teams struggling to really control the ball.
Yeah, Narragansett has had a few opportunities, and they've looked fairly dangerous when they've had them. But, they know they're up by 3. They know they don't need to go, full aggressive. They need to play back, make sure not to concede anything easy on the back end. And for Fitchburg, it has just been a struggle. Even when Narragansett isn't playing their full-out attack, Fitchburg's offense has not been able to get anything together. In fact, they've conceded an opportunity here.
And Brogy flips that in the direction of the goal, looking for a touch on there from the striker coming up the left, but Council gets there first. And that was Sarah Jansen she was trying to feed.
Very close to offside there was Jansen's. I think she was just on.
But I haven't seen too many.
Just a little bit too long. I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
I haven't seen too many offsides calls in these games. They've been pretty rare.
The situation just hasn't come up that much either. A lot of the play has been slow developing, just basic fundamental passing.
Indeed, as now they're ready for play. Leviger found a white-socked foot. That's not going to help matters. Ultimately, the Red Raiders will get it back on the kick-in, but they've lost a bunch of territory here.
Territory and time, one more valuable than the other probably. Looking at, just 2.5 minutes left in this one. You imagine there probably won't be much stoppage time. There hasn't been that much call for it here in the fourth quarter. For Fitchburg, any hope of winning the game is gone, frankly, but you want to get a point on the board. You want to get the ball in the net, try to take away something positive from this one. You would hate to be shut out for a second time in 3 games.
The positive, of course, with the Oakmont game was at the very least they were able to shut out the Spartans as well, but not able to do so against Narragansett as the Warriors have found 3 goals.
And speaking of Oakmont, they will be the next home opponent for Fitchburg. That game happening this coming Tuesday, October the 20th at historic Crocker Field. 4 p.m. kickoff there.
I should be able to get down there.
I definitely won't be able to get down there, but, you have fun. No, it'll be a good time. Dan Bolek with the call Tuesday at 4 here on FATV. Fitchburg looking for either their first or second win of the season. We'll find out once we find out how the Gardner game went, which you folks at home already know. But we'll find out soon.
That ball fed down towards Georgia Brewer.
She'll gather it in as we approach the 19-minute mark unofficially here. Just 1 minute left to play. Brewer with a little pooch punt there, not even risking taking the ball over the end line. I think Narragansett is very firmly in the territory of, all right, let's play this out. Let's, don't give up anything. Don't get anybody hurt. And as I say that, the Warriors have themselves a 3-on-2 advantage. Ambrogi trying to set something up, looking to make a play, gets past the defender herself, takes the shot, looking for the hat trick.
And she finds it.
Couldn't tell if that one went in or behind the net, but she does indeed put it in the final moment. Maddie Ambrogi gets herself her 3rd goal of the game, a hat trick for the junior. A fantastic game for Ambrogi, capped off in style, 4-0 Narragansett. There was very little Tanila Council could do about that one.
Indeed, just a great effort there for Narragansett, finishing off with a bang.
Now Zoe Meyer and the referee are going at it. A little bit of aggressive gesturing from both parties.
So now well into stoppage time here.
Gansett will get a kick in, and they'll probably just blow the whistle here. We are in the 21st minute, approaching the 22nd of the fourth quarter. Fitchburg will get one more opportunity, maybe, broken up there by Gansett. Raiders have to make something happen quickly if it's going to happen at all. Narragansett instead will take it out and send it upfield, booted right back across the middle. There are 2 guys with yellow shirts who have electronic whistles. It is 4-0. They are not blowing them. Fitchburg will try to play it out, but it is just knocked out of play there by Chloe Liano. First time we've called her name.
And that looks like that's it.
That will do it. A 4-0 victory for Narragansett. A hat trick for Maddie Ambrogi. Great game for her. A really, really impressive performance by the Warriors. And for Fitchburg, Dan, it's another frustrating loss. But the question is, they have a game 24 hours from now, or from then, against Gardner. That was tomorrow for them and yesterday for us. How did they rebound?
So here's the funny thing. I made the stat sheet on Thursday, and I haven't looked at any results or anything since then. It turns out, since I made this stat sheet, they had rescheduled the game.
I see. So no game was played. So the Red Raiders did not, in fact, have to turn around and play Gardner 24 hours later. Instead, they get to stew for a little bit longer before taking on Quabbin again this coming Tuesday, October the 20th. I'm sorry, they take on Oakmont, not Quabbin. My apologies. Quabbin will be their next game on the 22nd.
So hopefully there's not a whole lot of fans tuning in on the replay and saying, what the heck are you talking about?
Oh, no, they are definitely saying, what the heck are you idiots talking about? Absolutely.
Well, hopefully they got to the end of the game and they got to see that, well, do the magic of not telling us things. But then again, like I said, trying to keep spoiler free is what I was trying to do.
Uh-huh.
And how did that work? And that worked out in the way that it worked out in one way, but in that other way, oh my goodness, that has not worked out at all.
Okay. Well, folks, obviously it is an interesting and unique experience for all of us, and we're learning as we go, and please don't hate us for being doofuses. You've let us stick around this long. We're gonna keep being doofuses. But our next game here on FATV, one more time before we say goodbye, will be Tuesday, October the 20th. Fitchburg High girls soccer taking on Oakmont, looking for their first win of the season, a rematch of the season opener, which ended at 0-0. Dan, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, in that last quarter, it looks like that one shot on goal was, I think, the one goal there from Ambrogi to complete her hat trick, I believe, was the only shot in that fourth quarter. So final shots from my count were 14-4. Okay, yeah, there were maybe a couple other shots as well, actually. So, because spacing out for a moment, but the final shot on goal, final shots tallies from what I've got. It's Narragansett 14, Fitchburg 4. Shots on goal were 9-1 in favor of Narragansett. And so for Fitchburg, definitely a bit frustrating. The numbers a little worse than they were offensively against Quabbin, except, they had goals, and this time they didn't have goals. But
that's kind of important.
I think they feel like they probably should have been able to put up a better fight against the Warriors, and maybe a bit frustrated that it didn't go to plan at all. They just weren't able to really sustain the pressure, and Narragansett controlled the pace of play yet again.
A really frustrating start for a team that had an above 500 record just last season. They were 9-7-1 in 2019. I mean, obviously, you lose not to call her your leading scorer is to even downplay the role that she played. The force that drives your offense. You're without that player for the start of the season, and it has shown that Fitchburg just really doesn't have, or at least has not found, the offensive solution.
And does make things challenging when you have a player who can step in and do so much, and now you're without that game-breaking player as she moves on to college. It's like that's one of the challenges, replacing those seniors that can bring all that leadership and all that playmaking ability. In this case, the Red Raiders just haven't been able to quite find their scoring touch yet.
But again, it is early days yet, only 3 games played, still plenty more on the schedule. One more time before we say goodbye, our next telecast of FHS girls soccer will be Tuesday, October the 20th against Oakmont. That'll be a 4 o'clock kickoff from historic Crocker Field. Dan Bolek will have the call all by his lonesome, but for now, I will handle the outro all by my lonesome. For Dan Bolek and Nate Glennie and Travis Falk and everybody at FATV who made this telecast possible, thank you all so much for being here. I'm John Gugerty, and we will see you next time right here on FATV.